It's said that some mirrors don't just show your reflection, they show something else, something you're not meant to see. Tonight we follow Ayaan, a quiet boy who never believed in ghost stories, until now. It all started when Ayaan and his two best friends, Zara and Hamza, found an old mirror abandoned behind the school's storage room. The glass was cracked, the frame rusted, and yet there was something about it that made it impossible to ignore. Zara joked that it was cursed, like those creepy mirrors you hear about in horror movies. They laughed it off, but something inside that mirror was waiting, watching. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Ayaan couldn't stop thinking about the mirror. It felt like it was calling him. He set up his phone to record, half as a dare to himself, and stood in front of the mirror alone. At first, it was just his tired face staring back. But then, something moved behind him, a shadow, quick and silent. He turned around. Nothing. Brushing it off as his imagination, Ayaan decided to perform the ritual Zara had mentioned for fun, saying his own name 3 times while staring directly into the mirror. He didn't believe it would work. Not really. But when he finished the third whisper, the room grew colder. His reflection blinked, but Ayaan hadn't. His heart pounded as he stumbled backward, realizing that the thing in the mirror was no longer copying him. It was smiling. Before he could scream or run, the screen of his phone flickered, and the recording caught something that no one could ever explain. And this was just the beginning. Ayaan froze, staring at the mirror as the air around him turned icy. His own reflection, still grinning, tilted its head slightly, almost as if mocking him. His breath became visible in the cold, misty air, and the sound of faint whispering filled the room. It was so soft he couldn't make out the words, but it felt like they were coming from inside the mirror. Terrified, Ayaan grabbed his phone and ran out of the room without daring to look back. The hallway lights flickered as he rushed toward his parents' room, but when he burst through the door, it was empty. The whole house, usually warm and familiar, suddenly felt strange, like he had entered a different place altogether. He called out for his parents again and again, but the only answer was a soft knock. Coming from inside his own room. Ayaan didn't sleep that night. He sat curled up on the living room couch, clutching his phone. Every time he replayed the video, it got worse. The reflection wasn't just smiling, it was moving differently, acting like it had a mind of its own. At one point, the figure even stepped slightly forward, closer to the glass, while Ayaan in the video stayed perfectly still. It wasn't just a trick of the light. Something was inside the mirror, something that had seen him. The next day at school, he told Zara and Hamza everything. They tried to laugh it off, but when Ayaan showed them the video, the color drained from their faces. Hamza, always the brave one, said they should destroy the mirror before anything else happened. Zara wasn't so sure. She believed that breaking a haunted mirror could trap the spirit inside forever, making it angrier. As they argued, none of them noticed the small crack on Ayaan's phone screen slowly spreading, as if an invisible hand was pressing against it from the inside. That night, they planned to meet again, to face the mirror together and end whatever had been started. But by then, it was already too late. The mirror wasn't just reflecting anymore. It was reaching out. And the reflection that smiled at Ayaan wasn't waiting to stay behind the glass much longer. As night fell again, Ayaan sat in his room, staring at the mirror from across the hallway. He could swear it was closer than before, though no one had touched it. He had tried covering it with a cloth earlier, but when he returned after dinner, the cloth was lying neatly folded on the floor, and the mirror stood uncovered, as if it refused to be hidden. At exactly midnight, Zara and Hamza sneaked into Ayaan's house. They didn't want anyone else to know what they were planning. They brought salt, an old book about haunted objects they found online, and a hammer just in case. The plan was simple. They would perform a cleansing ritual, and, if that didn't work, smash the mirror and bury the pieces far away. As they set everything up, Ayaan's phone buzzed. A new video had appeared in his gallery, but none of them had recorded anything. Hands shaking, he opened it. The screen showed the three of them standing right there in his room. But in the video, their reflections were all wrong. Their mirror selves weren't preparing a ritual. They were staring back with hollow eyes, smiling those same twisted smiles. Zara whispered that maybe the mirror wasn't just haunted. Maybe it was a gateway. Ayaan wanted to believe it was just a glitch, but deep down, he knew the truth. That thing inside the mirror wasn't just copying them. It was learning, studying. Meanwhile, Hamza noticed something else. Their real reflections had stopped moving completely. Even though they were talking and shifting around, the mirror showed them standing still, staring at their real selves with growing intensity. It was like the real and mirror worlds were no longer connected. A sudden knock on the window made all three of them jump. They turned, expecting to see a branch or the wind, but outside, under the pale streetlight, stood three figures, exact copies of themselves, motionless, waiting. Hamza gripped the hammer tighter. "We have to destroy it. Now." But when he swung it toward the mirror, the glass rippled like water. The hammer passed straight through without making a sound, and Hamza stumbled forward, half disappearing into the shimmering surface before pulling himself back with a scream. The mirror wasn't just haunted anymore. It was open. Hamza stumbled back, his face pale as he stared at the mirror. "It's not just a reflection," he gasped. "It's a doorway." The surface of the glass shimmered like a pool of black water, moving slightly even though the air in the room was completely still. Ayaan and Zara backed away slowly, their hearts racing. The mirror versions of themselves outside the window hadn't moved, but their presence felt heavier, as if they were just waiting for the right moment. Zara flipped through the old book, searching for anything that could explain what was happening. Her hand shook so much she could barely turn the pages. Somewhere deep in the worn pages, she found a passage about cursed mirrors, describing how some mirrors didn't just reflect, they trapped souls, copied them, twisted them into something unrecognizable. If the mirror wasn't sealed properly after a summoning, the reflection could escape and replace the real person. Ayaan's stomach dropped. He realized what was happening. The versions outside weren't just copies. They were waiting to take their place. As Zara read out loud from the book, the lights in the room began to flicker violently. Shadows moved along the walls, even though there was no one else there. Ayaan felt the temperature plummet again, his breath coming out in short white puffs. He could hear whispering now, louder than before, circling them, filling the room with a low humming noise that made his skin crawl. Hamza gripped the hammer tighter, but his hands were trembling. Every instinct told him to run, but deep down he knew running wouldn't help. Whatever they had awakened was already inside their world. Suddenly, the mirror surface rippled violently, and a hand shot out, pale, cold, and clawed. It grabbed the edge of the frame, pulling itself closer. The hand didn't look human anymore. It was something else, something twisted by the mirror's curse. Zara screamed, stepping back into Ayaan, who almost dropped the book in his panic. He fumbled through the last page Zara had been reading, where it mentioned one desperate method. A mirror could be sealed again, but only by offering a reflection in exchange. A sacrifice. The three of them locked eyes, the horrible realization sinking in. One of them would have to stay behind the glass to close it, but before they could even think about it, another hand shot out, grabbing Hamza by the ankle. He shouted in fear, kicking wildly as the hand tried to pull him into the shifting surface. Ayaan and Zara grabbed him, pulling with everything they had. The glass around the mirror cracked in spiderweb patterns, the room vibrating with an unnatural hum. The shadows on the wall twisted into terrible shapes, stretching toward them. Outside the window, their reflections finally started moving, walking slowly but surely toward the house. The mirror world was no longer content to stay hidden. It wanted them all. And the last reflection was almost free. The sound of cracking glass grew louder, almost deafening, as Hamza fought against the clawed hand dragging him toward the mirror. Ayaan and Zara pulled harder, their muscles burning with the effort. Just when it seemed like they were winning, the mirror did something none of them expected. It expanded. Before their eyes, the frame of the mirror stretched outward, growing wider, taller, until it nearly touched the ceiling. It was no longer just a mirror. It had become a portal, an open door between their world and the one inside. The thing trying to pull Hamza in wasn't alone anymore. More figures were gathering in the shimmering darkness behind the glass, dozens of twisted reflections, all watching hungrily. Zara screamed for Ayaan to get the salt. They had brought it for protection, but in the chaos, it had been forgotten on the bed. Ayaan let go of Hamza for just a second, lunging for the salt. That 1 second was all it took. Hamza was yanked halfway into the mirror, his screams echoing unnaturally in the room. Ayaan threw the salt toward the mirror's surface. The grains hit the glass, sizzling like drops of water on a hot stove. The hand holding Hamza recoiled, hissing in pain, and Hamza tumbled backward onto the floor. For a moment the mirror pulsed, and the figures inside shrieked, their outlines blurring. It should have been over, but that's when the real twist hit them. The Hamza they had pulled back wasn't the same. At first, nothing seemed wrong. He coughed, gasped for air, and looked around with wide, terrified eyes. But when Zara touched his shoulder, he flinched back violently, and for a brief second, his eyes, once a warm brown, flashed a deep, unnatural black. Ayaan froze. The real Hamza would have never reacted like that. He realized with horror that the mirror hadn't failed. It had succeeded. While they were fighting to save him, the mirror had switched him. Zara didn't notice. She grabbed Hamza's arm and tried to pull him toward the door. "We have to go," she cried. "We have to get help." But Ayaan stood rooted to the spot, heart hammering in his chest. If they left now, they would be bringing whatever this thing was into the real world, and there would be no way to stop it once it crossed the threshold. Behind him, the mirror pulsed again. In its surface, Ayaan saw his own reflection smirk at him, a wicked, knowing look that sent chills down his spine. They hadn't closed the door. They had opened it wider. Outside, the figures that had been moving toward the house were no longer reflections. They were real now, their footsteps soft but steady on the pavement. And every single one of them wore the face of someone Ayaan knew. The last reflection wasn't just free, it was multiplying. Ayaan knew he had only seconds to decide. If they let this fake Hamza leave the house, the real world would never be the same again. He grabbed Zara's wrist and yanked her back, hard. "It's not him," he shouted. "That's not Hamza." Zara looked at him like he had lost his mind, but before she could argue, the thing wearing Hamza's face turned. Its mouth twisted into a crooked grin, far too wide, and its voice dropped into a low, distorted growl. "Too late, Ayaan." Without thinking, Ayaan grabbed the salt again and threw it directly at the creature. The fake Hamza shrieked, smoke rising from where the salt hit his skin, and stumbled back toward the mirror. The portal shimmered wildly, like a storm inside the glass. The real Hamza's voice, weak and desperate, echoed from deep within the mirror. "Don't leave me," he cried. Ayaan didn't hesitate. He charged toward the mirror's surface, ignoring every instinct telling him to run. As he touched the glass, it sucked him in like a vortex, pulling him into the dark, freezing world beyond. Inside the mirror, everything was twisted, a broken version of reality. Ayaan fought through the freezing mist, searching for the real Hamza. Shadows clawed at him, whispering lies into his ears, trying to confuse him. Finally, he saw Hamza, chained to a cracked piece of mirror floating in the dark. Ayaan smashed the chains with a piece of broken glass, and together they ran toward the shimmering surface that showed Zara's terrified face outside. Zara, thinking fast, drew a circle of salt around the mirror frame. The portal's edge shrank, and the figures inside screamed in rage. With one final push, Ayaan and Hamza dove through, crashing onto the bedroom floor. The mirror cracked violently, the glass shattering into 1,000 pieces. The reflections, the fake Hamza, the twisted versions of themselves, all of it vanished in a rush of cold wind. The nightmare was over. Breathing hard, the three friends sat on the floor, too shaken to speak. Ayaan looked around the room. Everything felt normal again. Safe, or so he thought. As he picked up his fallen phone, the screen flickered once, twice. and then showed a dark reflection of the room. But this time, there were 4 figures standing inside the broken mirror, and one of them was still smiling. Ayaan stared at the screen, heart pounding. He blinked hard, hoping it was just his tired mind playing tricks. But when he looked again, the 4th figure was still there, frozen in the dark glass of the shattered mirror. For a long moment, none of them moved or spoke. It was Hamza who finally broke the silence. "We need to get rid of this. All of it." Without wasting time, they collected every shard of glass they could find, careful not to leave a single piece behind. They wrapped the fragments in cloth, salted them heavily, just like the old book had said. That night, they drove far beyond the town limits, deep into the woods where no one ever went anymore. Under the cold, silent sky, they dug a hole and buried the cursed remains, covering it with rocks and salt for good measure. For a while after that night, things returned to normal. The house felt like a house again. The mirror was gone. No more strange reflections. No more cold whispers in the dark. Even Ayaan's phone stopped glitching, like the last piece of the mirror's curse had finally lifted. Zara, Hamza, and Ayaan tried to move on, agreeing never to speak of it again. But late at night, sometimes when the house creaked and the wind howled against the windows, Ayaan would remember the 4th figure trapped in the mirror, the one that smiled. And deep down, he wondered if they had truly closed the door, or just left it waiting. Weeks later, as Ayaan scrolled through his photos mindlessly one evening, he paused. Tucked between random selfies and school pictures, there was a new image he didn't remember taking, a photo of him, Zara, and Hamza standing outside the old woods. But behind them, just barely visible in the shadows, was another figure, watching. It didn't wave, it didn't move, it just smiled. And in that moment, Ayaan realized the truth. Some reflections aren't meant to be seen. Some mirrors never really break. They just wait for the right time to open again. The last reflection was still out there, and it was patient.